Today, all you wanted to know about credit card transactions and processing. Well, what is the actual trajectory each time you use your credit card? Did you actually know there are 4 to 5 participants in each one of these transactions? All about it momentarily. Just before the Canada Credit Card Expert channel, our mission is to help Canadians make the most out of the credit cards. So by all means, you could subscribe to our channel right at the bottom. There is a button at the bottom. So let's actually start without further ado. Well, you are obviously the first participant in our journey today. This journey will actually get us to meet 5 participants, potentially 4, but normally 5. So you being the first one is the one who actually selected, been approved for, and use a credit card. In return, what's in it for you? Well, you probably guessed it right. That means you would be getting some rewards, some perks, etc. In return, you will be using your card, and by doing that, the other 4 participants would actually get what's in it for them. So let's actually meet the second participant. Well, you can see the second participant right now on the screen, and this is essentially where you use your credit card. We affably call them businesses, but they could be pretty much anyone who could process a credit card. Officially, they are named merchants. So these merchants are the second participant. What's in it for them? Well, obviously, they could actually get a credit card as a payment method. Let's meet the other participants. These merchants would actually have to take your credit card and do something with it, which means they would actually have to confirm that your credit card is actually as good as it looks, which means they could actually get the credit card details and get their money paid. For that, they would actually have to be in a contract with an acquirer. Acquirer is the official name for what we affably call a merchant's bank. The acquirer would actually be licensed by one of the networks. Networks are either Visa, MasterCard, or American Express in the case of Canada. And we just actually mentioned these are the 4 participants in our journey today. Well, you are saying there's one more participant. Well, obviously, yes. Obviously, you got your credit card somewhere, and this somewhere is a financial institution. The financial institution is also someone who got contracted by the network. So essentially, the networks, that is MasterCard, Visa, American Express, would actually not only license acquirers, but also have agreements with different financial institutions. So let's start with the latter. The financial institution would normally have a tendency to work with one of these networks, so say BMO with MasterCard, TD with Visa, etc. Scotiabank is the only bank in Canada who actually work with all 3 networks. At the same time, American Express is the only network that would actually be also an issuer of the credit card. Indeed, Visa and MasterCard never ever issue their own credit cards. They just license them out to these financial institutions. So we have 3 networks, and we have a network that is also being an issuer, and we have Scotiabank that actually uses the 3 networks as well. What's in it for the issuing bank, you are asking? Well, the issuing bank has a lot of responsibility. Firstly, they have to vet the applications for the credit card. They have to provide customer service. They have to actually deal with fraud cases. They also have to actually support you on any and every issue you actually have with the credit card. At the same time, they set up the annual fees, and they also are liable for any type of advertisement that comes with the credit card. Now, we must mention this. They actually give you the rewards. So in the event they actually provide you with airline miles, they have to buy them in bulk. If they provide their own proprietary program type of points, well, that's a liability for them as well. All of this is actually coming from what they actually get from this transaction. That is called an interchange fee. An interchange fee is one of the 3 elements that actually sets the transaction fees that the merchant is paying each time you use your credit card. The interchange fee, we can't put a very specific figure on it, but normally we are talking about 2/3 to 80% of the total fees paid by the merchant. And you obviously understood why, because most of the stuff that's being done is being done by the actual financial institution. The interchange fees actually are set, and you can actually see on the screen now, well, they actually set depending on what type of industry you're in, that is the merchant, and what type of credit card the cardholder is actually using. Well, if you use a Visa Infinite, it would definitely charge more than a Visa Platinum, but it would charge less than a Visa Infinite Privilege. So say a category 5 credit card like a Privilege would actually charge more in interchange than a Visa Infinite category 4 credit card. So when you actually look at these interchange fees, these are the actual incentive for the financial institution. Also, the financial institution has to abide by some of the rules of the network. Obviously, minimum income is one of them for higher category type of credit cards. Most of the perks being provided, as well as all the rewards being provided, are the liability of the financial institution. Again, with some exceptions, all of these would actually be the responsibility of the bank issuing your credit card. Now let's move into the actual network. What does the network actually do? They set up the fees. The issuing bank's fees, the interchange fees or transaction fees are actually set up by the network. So these are not negotiable. Also, what is not negotiable is their arm fees. So the network fee, which is called an assessment fee, is also not negotiable. So in Canada, by the way, Visa would actually charge 0.09% per transaction, MasterCard 0.077% per transaction. In the event of foreign transaction, that is a Canadian card used overseas or a foreign card used in Canada, there will be a surcharge of 0.4 to 1%. And now we are actually talking about foreign exchange fees, and now you understand where the 2.5% most Canadian credit cards would actually come from. The network would also provide not only the actual relay information, which means they are essentially technology powerhouse for actually getting the whole transaction done. They provide some of the perks, especially with the higher category credit cards. Let's just mention Boingo with World Elite MasterCard, or also with Visa Infinite Privilege, we can think of lounge passes and priority pass. So this is exactly their role, but at the same time, they are crucial for this whole journey to actually take place. So the networks would make their own bid on a lot of transactions. They work on massive volumes, and then they would also have to license these acquirers. So these acquirers, the merchants bank, which are essentially the representative of the merchant, would actually have to be licensed by, say, Visa or MasterCard, etc. So their networks, they're actually technology networks. Visa is actually called VisaNet, the Interbank by MasterCard, and OptBlue American Express. They would have to work, they would have to talk to the acquirer network. That is, the acquirer system would have to communicate with the network technology. How does that be done? Well, the network would actually license out acquirers in various countries. In Canada, we have quite a few, possibly 10 or so. We can just mention a few of them that are actually run by Canadian banks, but there are others. They're actually American-based, but in Canada, we have a Desjardins, Monetica. We also have Moneri Solution, which is co-owned by RBC and BMO. But at the same time, TD Merchant Services is also a possibility. So when we actually talk about these providers, we actually talk about providers being licensed by the network. What do they charge? Well, that is actually negotiable. Unlike interchange fees, they are actually dependent on what type of merchant, volumes, etc. It's a very difficult task to actually put an exact number, but is estimated to be anywhere between 0.2% and 0.35%. So when you add up the whole thing, you will actually see what the merchant is paying each time you use your credit card. So let's just assume $100. In Canada, the average interchange fee is actually believed to be around 1.5% mark. And again, that changes dramatically. But let's just work with this number. So your $100 payment would actually go 1.5 to your bank. Then Visa or MasterCard, work out the numbers. You can see them on the screen, and the acquirer would get, let's just get roughly 0.25%, a quarter basically, out of your transaction. Now, one more word about these transactions. Very, very interesting how this is all being actually done. Well, the merchant takes the information, send it to the acquirer. The acquirer would actually relay the information to the financial institution. Everything is being done via the network. So as we mentioned, VisaNet, Interbank, or OptBlue American Express. So the issuer approves the client, sends it back to the network, sends it back to the acquirer. In the event this is actually an approved transaction, well, there'll be a simple set of actually payments that are actually being run back and forth amongst these three participants. That is the issuer, the network, and the acquirer. And the end of it, the acquirer would actually pay the merchant. The issuer would be charged by the network. Once they are charged by the network, they actually debit your account, and you'll see $100 charged to your account. Now, at the end of it, the issuer would actually get their interchange fee. Once the acquirer actually charged in a monthly or weekly or whatever the cycling bill is, the merchant. So when Visa or MasterCard or American Express actually settles this transaction, they would charge the assessment fee. They would actually get the money from the issuer, leave the interchange fees, and the acquirer would end up charging the merchant on a cycle type of billing. that is pretty much how your credit card is being used. Well, maybe it sounds very complex, but it's very important to actually understand each time you use your credit card, who gets what, and how do you actually end up getting all these rewards. These rewards are coming from your transactions. Essentially, the interchange pays for them all. One more thing. American Express is not actually, they don't actually publicize the list of interchange, what they call transaction fees. So some of these numbers actually are missing, but we could actually say that American Express did actually take these charges down over the last few years, especially with the introduction of OptBlue in 2015, just to have more access to the market. Now, this is pretty interesting, but there will be a whole different video about that. We would like to thank you for your time today. And by all means, subscribe to our channel. There is definitely space for comments, or definitely the like button, the bell at the right-hand side. We'll see you soon.